Shlok 49, Adhyay 18. Asakta buddhi sarvatra jitatma vigata sprihaha naishkarmya siddhim paramam sanyasena digacchati. Means, he whose intellect is not attached to anyone or anything, whose thirst for enjoyment has altogether disappeared, and who has subdued his mind, reaches through Sankhya Yoga, the path of knowledge, the consummation of actionlessness. So, we have been studying from Shlok 41 onwards the explanation of the four Varnas. Bhagwan has explained the four Varnas, and we have been elaborating on them for the past few weeks. The four Varnas are based on our Swabhav, our innate disposition. And Bhagwan also explained that for each Varna, there are specific duties which have been prescribed based on our own capability, ability, nature to perform that kind of a function, duty. I'm not going to go again into that because we've been talking about that for many weeks now. What is the benefit of doing the duty that is prescribed for our particular swabhav or for our particular varna? When we perform the duties prescribed for our varna, and we do those duties with the bhava of worshipping the divine, then Bhagwan told us that our vasanas slowly start getting destroyed and we attain our highest spiritual goal. And in this shloka, Bhagwan refers to that state of the highest spiritual goal by the words Paramam Naishkarmya Siddhim, meaning we reach the state where we have mastered the supreme state, where we are remaining established in our real nature, in the Atma, which here he calls the actionless self. Why actionless self? Well, when a person realizes his own self and that it is no different from Brahma itself, then that person becomes freed from all duties. He may continue doing his duties according to his preference, or he may not do any duty. Nothing is prescribed anymore for a person who has realized the self. So, Varna, ashram, nothing no longer applies to this person. While he's a sannyasi, still the Varna, the ashram, everything applies. But once he has realized the self, none of these dharmas of ashram and Varna, no duty, nothing is compulsory. The person can continue to perform duties or not continue to perform duties. Now, he has realized that his true nature is the self. He has also realized that this true self is no different from Brahma. And we also know that Brahma is actionless. Therefore, the self is actionless. Therefore, this person who no longer considers himself a person, but considers himself as Atma itself, he is also actionless self. That is why Paramam, Supreme, Naishkarmya Siddhim, he is actionless even while his body performs actions. And that is the state that we are all aspiring to reach. In Yoga Vasishta, it is said that the yogi does not have to give up any actions, but the actions give him up. What does that mean, actions give him up? You see, no action can come without desire, without a sankalp. There is no action possible without a desire or without a sankalp. But The yogi is without any desire. Therefore, he is called actionless self in spite of doing any action. So Bhagwan gives us in this shlok the marks or lakshans, you can say, of the one who has attained this state of actionless self. There are 4 lakshans in this shloka. Let's go to the first one. First one says, asakta buddhi sarvatra. Asakta, not attached. His buddhi, his intellect is no longer attached to anyone, nor to anything, nor to any concept, not to any identity, nothing. This notion of I, mine, this is mine, that is not yours, this is different, separateness, differentness, all that has been completely cleaned up like a slate, that a blackboard that you have erased. All these notions of I and mine have been erased. He knows his true identity is Atma, the self, and he experiences the fact that the self is not attached to anything in the entire universe. What is attached is the BMI. The BMI is the one that experiences attachment, but he knows very well he is no longer the BMI. His attachment simply dissolve and he becomes supreme state, Jivan Mukta. Okay, so asakta buddhi sarvatra, for everything and everyone. Second, jitatma. Jitatma means he has subdued his excuse me, he has subdued his mind. Jit means one. Atma here means the antakaran, the entire inner equipment. So we have to understand, where does karta bhav come from? The karta bhav, the mind is the seat of karta bhav, I. And the intellect is the seat of bhokta bhav. Karta bhav and bhokta bhav give you the sense of I as in BMI. So now, together, this karta bhav and bhokta bhav equals, you can say, karta bhav plus bhokta bhav equals ahankar. Now this yogi who has attained this supreme state, he has dissolved his BMI. He does not consider himself as a body, does not consider himself as his thoughts, does not consider himself as his notions. BMI, body, mind, intellect, have been surrendered. All these have been surrendered, they have merged, they have dissolved in the Atma. Therefore, all that remains is the Atma. Jivatma, meaning he has conquered everything and surrendered and dissolved, merged into the soul. Third lakshan, Vigata Spriha. He has altogether dissolved his thirst for enjoyment of objects. All the desires, all the, the cravings, the urges for happiness through objects, all that has disappeared completely. Even if one small trace of a desire remains in the antakaran, it is impossible to have jitatma. It is impossible to subdue the mind. Therefore, his thirst for keeping the body alive, his thirst for life itself, his thirst for any vishais, complete detachment. Because how? Because he knows that all these attachments are a source of bondage. They are a source of sorrow. And he has already overcome all these attachments. But that is not enough. That is not enough. Why he doesn't want any enjoyment from anything from the sansar? Because he has realized and known and directly experienced that his only anand that is worth striving for is within himself, is himself. And his only goal up till now has been liberation. Most of us have still got many goals to achieve. But this yogi has now no thirst for any other goal. His thirst, his mumukshutva, is only for attaining liberation. Therefore, he can do all these, achieve all these states and get actionless self state. The fourth is called sannyasena. Here they translated it through perfect knowledge. What is perfect knowledge? Perfect knowledge is knower of the self. All other knowledges are not perfect. They are always going to have something incomplete in them. But the knowledge of the self is the only knowledge which is complete and which is perfect. The person who has achieved this knowledge of his true identity through direct experience, not through books and reading and shravan and all that, he's the only one who is free. He's the only one who is liberated. Why? Because he's renounced his body. He has renounced his identity with the BMI. And now he has established himself in the Atma. And the Atma, by nature, is always free. I read somewhere that the greatest sign of freedom, I'll read the quote, the greatest sign of freedom is non-involvement with anything that is non-essential for one's union with the divine. If you are able to not get involved with anything that is not taking you to your union with the divine, then that is the greatest sign of freedom. So the real meaning of sannyas is what we have to understand from this shloka. Sannyas, the real meaning of sannyas, is a fruit of practicing karma yoga and gyan yoga properly. Sannyas is a fruit after karma yoga and gyan yoga is perfected. Okay? It is transcending all attachments. It has nothing now left to renounce. That is real sannyas. All bondages have dropped. Now, if you remember in the first adhyaya, remember what Arjun told Krishna. Arjun said, I want to renounce this battle. I want to renounce my kingdom. I want to renounce my thirst for doing any Kshatriya dharma. I want to take a begging bowl, become a monk, renunciate, and go and beg for my food. What he did is he was running away from his dharma. He was running away from the duties that he is supposed to perform, calling that running away as sannyas. So running away from life and running away from your duties is definitely not sannyas. It's definitely not called renunciation. So what is real sannyas? Real sannyas is this naishkarmya siddhim, paramam naishkarmya siddhim, meaning you stop identifying with your BMI. You're renouncing what? You're renouncing your identity as a body. You're renouncing your identity as a mind. You're renouncing your identity with your intellect. And by renouncing that, you are still doing your duties as a worship of the divine. And how do you worship the divine? We have already done in the earlier shloka. So the correct renunciation will result in being completely established in your true nature as Atma. It doesn't mean running away to a forest or running away to a mountain and staying in a cave, okay? In fact, it is the opposite. So true renunciation or this state of Naishkarmya Siddhim can only happen when you are established, when you are continuing to remain in the field of activity that has been given to you through prarabdha. Your prarabdha, my prarabdha, everyone's prarabdha puts us in a field of activity. And that field of activity is our doorway to freedom. By doing our purusharth in that field of activity, we purify ourselves. And when we purify ourselves through karma yoga bhav, we are able to transcend our prarabdha and move towards our spiritual goal. Arjun was a Kshatriya. He had to fight. He had to protect dharma. He had to protect his people. That is his dharma. And if he does that as Bhagwan prescribes to him, gives him updesh, he will overcome all his vasanas and he will reach his supreme goal, which we see him doing in the 18th chapter. And this is our take home for today. What is the field of activity that our prarabdha has put us in? And in that field of activity, what is our duty? And are we fulfilling that duty? And if we are, how are we fulfilling that duty? Are we fulfilling it in karma yoga bhav? Are we fulfilling it as a worship of the divine? And if we are doing that, then we are moving towards our goal. So that is what the beautiful summarizing this entire four varna topic as a means of liberation is what Bhagwan is giving us in this shlok. I'm just going to do a very short shloka, number 50, so that we pave the way. We give a little bit of introduction to the next week's shlokas, number 50 today. Siddhim prapto yatha brahma tathapnoti nibodha me samasenaiva kaunteya nishtha jnanasya ya para. Arjun, know from me only briefly the process through which man, having attained actionlessness, which is the highest consummation of Gyan Yoga, reaches Brahma. Bhagwan already explained us what is actionlessness. Now Bhagwan is saying there is a process after attaining actionlessness, briefly the process through which man, having attained actionlessness, now how will he reach Brahma? What is the secret of attaining Brahma Gyan? Obviously, this shlok tells us that first we have to attain actionlessness, naishkarmya siddhim. That is what we have to understand. But Bhagwan is not giving us the full process here. He says, understand this briefly. Nibodhame samasena. Nibodhame, understand from me, samasena, briefly. He's giving us the technique, just the points, the bullet points in this shloka. That's why it says very short. Later, in the next 4 shlokas, he's going to give us the entire process, step by step. The first thing you have to get is purity of mind. For the last decade or so, I have been continuously emphasizing that purity of mind is very essential before you even think of sitting for meditation. Of course, it has irritated so many people because they want to go directly to meditation. And every time I say purity of mind, I see everyone's eyes rolling up. But I can't help it. Purity of mind through Karma Yoga is the very first step, and it is a compulsory step. Okay? All the sadhanas that have been prescribed so far over the last 15 to 20 years, they have all been for purifying the mind. Those sadhanas are not going to give you moksha. Those sadhanas are going to prepare the ground by purifying the mind so that your mind becomes open to attain your highest goal. Rag, dvesh, kam, krodh, lobh, moh, mad, matsarya, all this has to be removed. Just like in a field, weeds, boulders, debris, garbage has to be removed before crops can grow. So in the same way, a pure mind has to be first achieved. And what is that method? Karma Yoga, Shraddha, Bhakti. These are all the tools through which you will attain purity of mind. When you will have attained purity of mind, you will be able to sit successfully in meditation. With an impure mind, you sit for meditation, all sorts of vikshep, ripples of thoughts will keep arising in the mind. So there is no point wasting your time with meditation before purification of mind. Okay? Then, when you will be able to sit in perfect silence, in perfect stillness, in meditation, you open the doors for kripa. Kripa floods your antakaran. With kripa, clarity comes. Now, no more disturbances are there. There's no more confusion. Clarity comes. When clarity comes, knowledge becomes obvious. And we call that knowledge parabhakti, paragyan, because it will slowly mature like a fruit into nirvikalp samadhi. Nirvikalp, thoughtless, only one thought, Brahma. And that's when you will realize Brahma. So, Nishtha Jnanasya Yapara, that is the sentence over here. Supreme attainment of knowledge. And with that supreme attainment of knowledge, the Gyan Aham Brahmasmi, you will stay established in the Atma. This is the process Bhagwan is explaining in brief. In brief. From next time, we will hear the actual step-by-step process of attaining Brahma Gyan for you and me. Till then, make sure your purification process is getting completed. Okay? Oh. 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 Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Chidarpana. Jai Gurudev.